Do a moment of silence first. I think it's good. 10-ish seconds.
Well, he dropped his fucking.
I'll
swear.
count it.
He dropped his effing thing.
Is it just a big man or is it a very little juice?
That's actually a 200 ml. This thing says 200 mls. Okay. Alrighty. So, topic for the day. My topic for the day, because I picked up man flu last week, and then I didn't sleep for a whole night.
And now you just want us to feel that. So,
Cast, you have man flu at least once a week. Let's just face it.
No, listen, I haven't
It's
had.
not always the symptoms that are associated with flu, though.
So I was thinking now, while I was peeing, when
How-
you're sick, you always want your mommy. Always. Like a little bit of care, a little bit of comfort. Does that come from a young age? I think, obviously, like just this, as soon as you heard mommy's boy, mommy, like,
so you're still a
suppose-
mommy's boy, is what you're saying.
still a mommy's boy.
What you drinking there, bro?
So this is a little Ginger Me. It's actually the company's name, Ginger Me. And
Are you affiliated to Ginger Me or did you find these randomly?
no,
How,
so
how did I end up with a little
no,
tub
so
in my hand?
So in the past, there was a little place where you walk past there in Willowbridge, and she's selling all her ginger aid things. So it's normally, so these things come in a big 750 ml, so you can pour yourself little like shots. But they've also got like a juice that I quite like. So it's a ginger me juice. It's more of like a rooibos, kind of rooibos and honey. What other flavors are there?
So you got me
Yeah.
the
Honey.
you got me the one with the chili
A little
here.
bit of chili.
Yeah. So these are new ones that they brought. Neil opted to not have the red chili, but these ones, like I wanted that little throat kick. That little thing, yeah.
Red chili.
Ginger's enough of a kick. And the chili is just overdrive for
Oh.
me.
But when you swallow, you must try to swallow it from the front of your tongue. You must go
Oh yeah, I feel
down
that.
like that. Yeah.
Hits you in the eyeballs.
And it sits on the tongue.
That was my phrase. I mean, I don't need much to get my eyes watering.
Yeah. So the podcast is basically talking about when you get a little bit sick, what should you do? What are the things that you should just avoid being tricked into spending lots of money on just a waste of medicine or wasted medicine? And what should you actually just focus on? And I mean, I caught myself, so found myself sick on Saturday morning, bit of a sore throat, had a late night, woke up on Sunday feeling a little bit okay, and then Monday when I woke up, I felt terrible. I didn't go waste money on seeing a doctor, didn't go and get, I mean, I still hear people going for COVID checks. Do I have COVID? And they go get tested. Are you actually crying? He's got a bit of water in
This
his
is proper, hey?
I
I
mean,
didn't hear
still
anything
know,
what you just said.
I still know people that
Didn't
go
see
for.
anything either.
I mean, they still. I test myself for COVID just in case. Why? If you're sick, stay at home. Try not to infect anybody else. I think we're safe to say that I'm maybe not infectious, but that's what I want to talk about. So I think let's start with the first thing.
Ben and I will
Um,
tell you in a few days' time.
So this is what's going to happen. I try to avoid people Monday, Tuesday. So Tuesday I stayed in bed. I worked from home. I could do all my work from home. I coached Tuesday night. Told people don't come close to me. So I'm very kind of open. I am sick. Don't come close. Don't hug me. A few people I'm not too bothered about. High five, still hug and kiss. Like my kids, like we're not going to try and avoid each other to a degree just because they always hanging out with me. That's probably where I got sick from, or from blowing the other kid's nose last Saturday. So what do you think as a doctor are the very basic steps that you should take when you wake up with a sore throat, to maybe me getting a little bit more sick, lack of sleep, and then waking up with that like phlegmy chest, like green phlegm on the chest? And I mean, I try and avoid any kind of antibiotic. So I mean, I'm feeling better today. So I'm 2 days into being what I think was really man flu sick, and I'm already better. I can hang out with you guys and work and be semi-functional. So take us through your, like if you were to get sick, what are your first steps?
Let's rewind all the way back
Yeah.
to the beginning of what is getting sick. Well, most likely it's a virus. You do get bacterial infections, which can give you very similar symptoms, but 90% of the time, probably even more than 90% of the time, it's a virus. So antibiotics are not going to help you anyway. There are some times where it is a bacterial infection that antibiotics will cure you literally within 2 or 3 days. So it's not to say antibiotics are not worth your while, but in general, it's not. when you have a viral infection, oftentimes it converts to a bacterial infection. How this works is you get a virus, you get a lot of mucus. Mucus becomes the perfect breeding ground for bacteria, and you get what's called a superimposed bacterial infection. And then you do end up needing antibiotics. So it's not to say it's of no value, but for the most part, it's a virus that will pass. Now we've got two types or sort of broad categories. We've got colds and we've got flus. For all intents and purposes, they present very similarly, but colds are generally a little bit less severe than flus as far as symptoms go. Now, colds come from what are called the rhinoviruses, and flus come from what are called the influenza viruses. Now, these are two sort of broad categories, but they act very much the same in that they mutate every year. So they want to survive as a species. So if you take a virus, why a virus is so incredibly potent is because it mutates very quickly. So if you get some kind of other sickness, it mutates very slowly, and we're able to say, okay, this bacteria will respond to this antibiotic. And then next year, this antibiotic still works in this bacteria because bacteria mutate very slowly. Viruses, we can't give antivirals because they mutate so quickly. What are we even treating? So there'll be hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of strains every year coming out of this new virus. So we've got the 2024 flu virus. That's not true at all. We've got the 2024 flu hundreds of viruses. And if you take the vaccine against the virus, the flu vaccine, which I don't advocate at all, you're treating a very limited amount of these strains. Let's say I get sick with the 2023 strain that I got the flu shot for, there's still only 40 to 60% efficacy against that strain. So at best, if I get last year strain, I've got a 50-50 chance. You know what I mean?
So just quickly, you telling me that if I have the flu, because I've never had the flu vaccines, so if I get the 2023 vaccine, you're saying that there are 100 versions of 2023 vaccine that I'm susceptible to, and this one will only work, let's say, on one strain.
Not what, because the vaccine is a combination, so it'll work on a multitude of strains. It's doing a best bet.
So it's taking the
But
100 and
it's
saying we
such a
can
small
do.
fraction.
Okay, so it's taking the 100. Let's say there's 100. Saying 100 and saying we're gonna hit like 50% of that,
Yeah,
or
less.
even less.
It's less. Yeah.
So again, from someone that's not close to being a doctor or anything like that, I don't have the flu vaccine because that's exactly how I feel. It's not. I would rather have my own immune system, try
100%.
and get stronger, and do preventative medicine.
When it comes to
Eat healthy,
vaccines,
sleep.
you piss off a lot of people because people have their beliefs, and all I am giving is my opinion. Opinions are like noses. Everyone's got one. Genuinely a couple of holes in them. So fine. Do with this information what you want. Okay. Now, let's say the flu virus and the cold viruses are all around us. The cold virus is transmitted via sneezing. Okay, so it hangs around in the air, but it's also transmitted very well as a vector. What that means is you sneeze, a particle goes and lands on something. It can survive there for 24 hours. I can touch it and then get it. You hand me a cup of coffee, or you touched a door handle that then I touched later in the day.
I definitely think you guys are
cetera.
going to be susceptible to being sick because everything we're saying now, I don't think I've got flu. I think I've just got a cold.
So the cold virus actually works very well as a vector. Flu virus is a little bit different. That's more sneezing on your hand and transmitting it very quickly, or breathing each other's air, or you coughed in the same car that someone else was in. It survives for
You
around
guys are
2
getting
hours.
so sick.
So it survives for around 2 to 4 hours, a lot less than the cold virus. What more can we say about this? Okay, so we have cold and flu viruses that exist, and we can get them in many different ways. Generally, the mode of inoculation, so the way that we get it, is through our eyes. I know that sounds very strange, but that is, for the most part, how we get viruses. When we get something on our hands, let's say a virus contaminates our hands, we rub our eyes and we get it. The only reason is because we have 3 different ways of preventing ourselves from getting infected, barrier being the first. Skin is very difficult for something to permeate. The mucosal membranes of your nose and mouth are very difficult because you've got acids in your mouth and you've got saliva and all of these wonderful things. In your gut, you've got all of the gut biome that will protect you. And then obviously the anus is not really where you're getting flu from. So let's not worry too much about that. But there's no real entry points other than the eyes that are so poorly protected.
Okay.
Now, there are some chemoprotectors. So there are some chemicals in your eyes that will protect against something. But for the most part, you inoculate yourself very quickly. You touch something, you touch your eyes. So people say, well, I just don't touch my eyes. You do. If you watch a video of yourself in the day, you'll be horrified how many times you touch your eyes in the day.
Yeah,
It
so
is
just to touch on that,
bonkers.
so I struggle with bad allergies this time of the year when it's a bit windy. Well, not now, about a month ago when it was crazy windy. I've got a habit now of trying not to touch my eyes. Like even now, when as you were saying, I'm like, there's a piece of eye snot in my eye now. You've highlighted it, and I don't want to touch
It's
it.
like when someone goes, "When last did you clear your throat?" It's kind of time, hey? And then you're like,
Right now. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So it is like that. But there's actually behavioral studies done on humans where they show 90, it says actually higher, but this particular study showed 90% of people will touch their eyes within 20 minutes of meeting someone. So it's part of you shake someone's hand and there's sort of smell receptors that you're interpreting about this person, who they are, their level of stress, what they mean to the community. You touch your face. So you do. I promise you do. Because people are like, oh, when I meet new people, I'll shake their hand and then, you within 20 minutes will touch your
Do you
eyes.
think that's also part of safeguarding community to spread bacterias and like make a community stronger?
I don't know. It's possible.
Like by naturally humans touching other humans to
we
make
kind
sure
of like
that
get
we
herd
all-
immunity.
Yeah, like I mean, like that's one of the things with COVID, the herd immunity thing, like trying to just get everybody to just physically get themselves through it and then getting stronger.
It's possible. I suppose it's possible. Anyway, okay, so that's how you get sick. Now, if this virus gets past the barrier, so it gets past the skin, mouth, eyes, whatever, so now it's in your body, you have two different ways of defending yourself against this virus. You've got what's called the innate immune system, and then you've got the adaptive immune system. Those are the two big ones. The innate one is kind of just like fishing with a shotgun. So you've got cells within your body that will see a virus as something that shouldn't have been there, and they'll try and kill it. And it happens very quickly, within minutes to hours. You've launched this response. So I've gotten a flu virus from you. Now my body is trying to fight it. The innate immune system will go with what are called natural killer cells and just try and defend against it. In general, that's enough, specifically if you are immune well, and we'll talk about later how you can protect yourself and build up your immunity and what you should be taking and what you should be avoiding. You're trying to build up your innate immune response. So if the flu virus gets past the innate, you've still got what's called the adaptive. So the adaptive is essentially what the vaccines try and mimic is, I've had this before. I have a memory of these things. I have cells which I've developed specifically against this virus, so I can launch an immune response. If you have never been inoculated with this particular strain, your body will do what's called like a best fit. So it sends what are called IgM cells to like try and recognize it and see, and then it'll read, what does this cell look like? What receptors does it have? Where is it vulnerable? And it'll take that information back to your sort of, if I can call it, immune center, and it'll make what are called IgG cells, which are designed specifically, perfectly to all of the weaknesses of this one. It's amazing. It's the most incredible thing that exists in all of creation is the immune system. It's mind-blowing.
So just to, so I'm an engineer. Can you physically see these things?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at like a virus, how big is it? It's about 5 microns. So if you look at a centimeter, you can bring that down to a millimeter, all right? If you take like a millimeter and divide it into 1,000 pieces, that would be a micron. It's about 5 microns big.
Okay.
So you can't physically see
Yeah,
it, but
yeah,
under
yeah,
a
yeah.
microscope, yes, you
That's
can
quite
observe
cool.
this happening. It's
Okay.
amazing. It's like
And then you can see those IgG
IgMs
cells.
and IgGs. Yeah,
Okay.
very interesting. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So your body makes them from scratch. So,
Makes them so it
it reads the
recognize-
cell, goes
Yep.
back, speaks to the creator, creates it, and then you have these cells.
And then you get what's called your adaptive immune response, which will then eventually kill the virus, and that's why we can live. All right, that's pretty much how.
Then what happens to the cells?
Which cells?
Those IgG cells.
It's amazing. So they'll die off, but they'll keep 1 or 2.
Okay.
So just like in the bank, and then you get this virus again. It'll send a bunch of cells to see, do we recognize it? Oh, we do recognize it. Boom! I can create many quickly because I've done it before.
So then you
So
don't.
that's learned
So
immunity.
then you might not get sick because you've got that in the bank.
You might not get sick, or at least you will get less sick than you would have otherwise. Yeah, so that's like learned immunity. And that's basically that's why it's called the adaptive immune response, because over time, you've just been exposed to so many different viruses that you are just better at attacking them. So there are people who do suffer from X, Y, and Z, and they have immune compromise and whatnot. It's actually not a bad thing to have gotten sick a few times, because you learn how to launch these immune responses, and you do get better and better and better at it. I'm not saying being sickly young helps you when you're old. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, so we don't
because-
want to be sick because it's miserable and you're unhealthy to a point and you can't do things. But you want to.
You don't want to be an island that like Bubble
Yeah,
Boy. You don't want
yeah.
Bubble Boy. 'cause that's
Being
probably-
sick is like doing reps for your immune system,
It is.
basically.
Literally is. So it's not the end of the world. So take heart, Garth. You're getting
Okay,
better.
So just quickly, because Neil's never sick.
Yes.
So is it that his system's just that strong that
So
he
we get-
doesn't get
Yes.
necessary?
So this is what I'm talking about is the innate immune response. The innate being the natural killer cells, the sort of shotgun approach of.
So could he have a stronger innate system, than what I do potentially?
Absolutely.
And what increases that?
All right,
Like,
so
what increases
let's
your innate
let's get
system?
into that. All right, so when
Sorry,
we look
just a
at
question back there.
yes,
If I've got the cold, can I get like a bronchitis from that green phlegmy chest?
yes, so that's more what I was talking about, a superimposed bacterial infection on a viral infection. So because you have so much mucus being produced, it's like a petri dish for like any pathogen to
Okay.
go and grow there. So
So
now you're
I could have
very
had a
susceptible.
viral infection like a cold,
Yes,
but now because I've got green phlegm, I could have a little bit of a bacterial infection.
absolutely.
So we're obviously going to talk about treatment, but can I just wean that out? Can I just wait that out? Or
Yes.
should I then
No.
try get antibiotics?
You
straight
don't
away?
ever have to take antibiotics. Should you not be getting well over a period of time, antibiotics will help you. And then you're looking at what is called the risk to benefit ratio. Is it of more benefit than risk for you to take this antibiotic? If yes, take it. If no, wait it out.
Okay, so we'll talk about the medicines just now, and I'll just touch on my stomach because I've got a very weak stomach. In terms of like, I don't want to now smash it with a bunch of antibiotics because then it takes me longer to even fix my stomach. Okay. So
Right.
let's talk about how we get that innate system. So how do we
So,
get
yeah,
to
how do-
understand Neil's system?
Neil's the phenomenon. Do you want to tell us, Neil, how you do it? What is your secret?
What's my secret?
Yeah.
Actually, when last were you sick? Tell us when
what
last
I
were you sick.
believe is my secret.
Yeah, like when last were you sick? That I mean, I've known you for a couple of years now.
It's been sick once.
I've seen you sick once,
Once.
and you just like shrugged it off.
No, he was a bit of a baby as well.
He was a bit
He
soft,
was,
actually.
it wasn't that odd. Yeah.
Yeah,
You-
That was
you're
like my
hyping him,
stomach
yeah.
bug thing that I had a while back. I've never really been.
Yeah, yeah. It
Sick,
didn't
sick.
have like green mucus. Like I've never seen you go, ha, loogie, green mucus.
No, if I do get sick, it might be more like a stomach virus or something of those. But and if I get, like, I can't remember when last I had like flu or whatever, or even if I had what I thought was COVID, like it generally passes pretty quick. Like
Yeah, I
know
think
how
when
to-
you had that COVID incident, you didn't really get sick from it.
no, like I didn't really have
What
to
was
take
your symptoms?
like generally over a weekend, and then I'm fine again the next week. But no, I think that's just because I can't really tell you when last I used antibiotics. So generally, anytime I do feel like I'm getting a sore throat, I kind of just use more natural products to sort of help boost my immune system and allow my immune system to do the reps to get myself over it. And then obviously, yeah, I mean, just certain things like maintaining a healthy lifestyle of food, training, trying to, not have, too much stress and all of that type of thing, and maintaining, those good nutrient levels and whatever else just keeps your body in a position where it's able to stay strong and fight very well. So, I think that's the key.
That's 100%. So if you look at immunity as a whole, there's this group of people who we group as immunocompromised individuals who are more likely to get sick. HIV being the like top of the pops. Obviously, if you're HIV, you don't have an immune system, so then you get sick. But there are other diseases that fall into the immunocompromised category, such as diabetics, for example. So what you start looking at is like, how can we reverse engineer this and say, okay, if these people are what we consider immune compromised, wouldn't the opposite of that be immune bolstered, if we can call it that? So if we're looking at, let's say, diabetics, you're looking at sugar intake, right? Is my sugar intake making me more sick? Yes, absolutely it is. Obviously, diabetes is the extreme of this, but we know that higher blood glucose content is more favorable for viruses to do well in. So what do we need to do? Live an insulin-controlled lifestyle. Okay, fine. So cut out sugars, or at least cut back. During winter, cut out sugars. Like let's be a little bit serious here. Fine. All right. So diet matters. What you're eating is going to count massively towards your immune system. With that, maybe we can just toss in glutamine. All right. So your immune system works on, they're like little animals that need to be fed to work well, and their primary fuel source is glutamine. So if you give them what they need, they function better. That's kind of a no-brainer. Just move on from that. All right. Then what are the next category of immunocompromised? Well, we get people who have disorders of cortisol. So people who produce too much cortisol, or they have tumors that produce cortisol, which is basically the stress hormone. So like Neil is saying, if you live a stress-controlled lifestyle, not that you don't have any stress, but if you have a stress-less lifestyle, you have better immune function. Cortisol drives down immune function massively. Another way to bolster immunity via reduction of cortisol and many other factors is sleep. We know that people who sleep more have less cortisol. Now, I must also stress cortisol is not a bad thing at the right time. Cortisol in the morning, even massive amounts of cortisol in the morning, is very, very important for good health. We're talking about chronic cortisol throughout the day and high cortisol at night. Because if you're stressing throughout your day at work, you're building up cortisol and you've got high cortisol at night. You want very low cortisol at night. So there should be ways of dissipating your cortisol throughout the day. Sleep is also massively of benefit for many other things with regards to the immune system. I don't know if we're going to have the time to go into each of those things individually. Maybe people can comment if they'd like to know more about that. But basically, if you are sleeping enough and you are eating no sugar, you are giving your immune system a very good chance of functioning at its optimum. Then we look at other things in our life where production of cells requires certain micro and macronutrients. So we need to be consuming enough protein in our diet. You look at children in Ethiopia who get no protein, they are sick often because they don't have enough protein in the diet. We need amino acids. We were speaking earlier about a particular amino acid called NAC, N-acetylcysteine, all right, which is used to boost immune function. This is what's called an essential amino acid. So we have amino acids that we can create. So let's say I need this type of amino acid, but I'm not eating it in my diet. I can use the amino acids that I do eat to make this amino acid. That's called a non-essential amino acid. Essential amino acids are things you have to get in through your diet, of which NAC is one, right? Now, N-acetylcholine basically improves the amount of glutathione in your body, and glutathione is a strong antioxidant, which helps your immune system. So there are certain macro and micronutrients. What I'm saying is diet matters. The quality of the micronutrients and macronutrients that you're getting in your diet is going to very strongly predict whether or not you get sick this winter. It is that simple. All right, so basically look at who are immune compromised and reverse engineer that, and you'll do quite well.
So, okay, so we living a healthy life, like I think I am. So now I have gotten sick. So I slept too little on Saturday night.
Yep.
I did pick up something that I probably would have shrugged off if I had slept on Saturday night, but then I didn't.
So
now I'm at a
just to throw
where-
that in there,
yeah.
a bad night's sleep, not no sleep, a bad night's sleep can decrease innate immunity to 40%. So you drop of 60%.
Okay.
And increase
One
cortisol
night.
levels.
One night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not talking about cortisol. That's just boom, overnight
Yeah.
like this. So
Sorry.
sleep is massively important.
Okay, so that's exactly what happened. So Friday felt a little bit sluggish, had a bit of a fever when I was in the sauna, didn't feel like training, and my heart rate spiked higher than normal. I knew something's fishy. Woke up Saturday morning, extremely sore throat, could feel stuff's going south, and then didn't sleep on Saturday night. So woke up Sunday, feeling terrible Monday. What should I then try to do? We obviously spoke about it. The first thing I did was I need to get MedLemon. I need to get some vitamin C, Flugon I use often. There's quercetin in there. But the immediate thing that I actually did was, how am I going to eat today? That was my first thought. I'm like, luckily it's Monday, so I've got all the nutrition that I need. I'm just like burgers, rice, carrots, some avo, make sure that I eat well today. And that's what I focus on. So Monday was probably a really good days of like extra focus on nutrition. Wasn't feeling well, so I didn't book any clients, canceled some stuff. Sat there and I just ate well and I hydrated myself. That's the first thing that I believe that one should do, making sure that just all your food groups are coming in still and that you're hydrating. Is there any stress that you could put on your body by like eating too many proteins, fats, or carbs? Obviously, we said now just avoid sugars. Is there anything that I can do wrong there?
Not at all.
Okay,
No.
so step one is
So
good.
eat and drink enough, obviously. I wouldn't recommend burgers, obviously. I think anything like close to whole foods is what you should be eating.
Yeah.
All of the things that you are taking, there's nothing wrong with taking them. But
Burger patties.
They're called, okay, burger patties, fine. These are what are called symptomatic relief. So basically, these help you feel better and function better while your body is fighting off the virus. It doesn't make you better. This doesn't improve immune function at all. It helps with the symptoms, which I think is still a worthy cause, in my opinion. I don't want to feel sick. So if you would like to spend a little bit of money on feeling better, I see no drawbacks to taking these things.
So something like, so let's just hit on like not trying to hit the brands, whatever it is, but let's say there's AC, like
ACC
200, 600,
yep.
whatever it is,
Yep.
just because I felt my chest getting a little bit phlegmy. Then obviously the MedLemon thing is just something that soothes your throat. Like I just like it because it soothes my throat. And then
So
Yeah.
nice symptomatics would be something called carbocystine, which is trade name Lesmusec. It's essentially the same thing as ACC 200, but a much better version. So if You can get some less Musec that'll help loosen up the phlegm, that the phlegm can come out. And then Panado. Panado is super underrated. So 1 gram 3 to 4 times a day will dramatically
So it's just paracetamol.
paracetamol. It's massively beneficial. And then obviously if you need antibiotics, there is that. But those are the kind of two things. There's one very nice medicine now called FAMU caps. And FAMU caps has a little bit of like antihistamine in it, a little bit of paracetamol, a little bit of like a nice cocktail, if I can call
Family
it.
cap.
FAMU caps.
FAMU
FAMU caps. Like the caps. Yeah, so those are fine. If you're not getting better, so a virus should improve 3 to 4 days. If not, it's probably bacterial and it's time for antibiotics. Or it can, let's just this, antibiotics will help you. You don't have to take antibiotics, but it will help you.
Yeah, so then like I want to always hit on, which we always chat about, is just gut health. So what I want to highly recommend for people is to not, firstly, you don't have to go see a doctor. If you just do those few things, drink, eat, sleep, give it 1 or 2 days, see how you feel. If you feel like you're getting worse, then, potentially see a doctor or try and have a look at something that's going to make you feel better, like symptoms, and then just see how it goes. How long do you think, because I don't see a doctor now. Obviously, I can just message you and be like, hey, I'm not feeling well, what do you recommend, or whatever it is. But in a case of people jump to the conclusion of like, I need to see a doctor, and then it's straight onto antibiotic. That's a very high trend lately. Like,
So look, like I said, it's just opinion based, and this is my opinion, is you do sometimes need to see a doctor, and it's not a bad thing to go to a doctor and say, okay, is this something serious? I had a guy this morning, he came in with an issue in his foot, and he basically just wanted to know, is this something serious? I don't think that's a dumb approach. I think if you have the finances to be able to go to someone and say, is this something that actually needs treating, yes or no? You can like rest easy, or you can catch it early. So I see benefit both ways. That being said, you have to surround yourself with medical practitioners who are, I want to say, forward thinking. And I don't mean this derogatorily to anyone, but if you're seeing a doctor who's throwing the same antibiotic at every single time you get sick, and your whole family and this, and like, I know this, there's a doctor, let me not say, but he or she gives the same treatment to everyone. So if you've got a toe pain, or you've got a breast lump, or you've got a cough, there's a script that's written, and you go and get that script, and off you go. So bad practice exists, and it's rampant, and it's in the top circles. So be careful of who you're associating with medically. But seeing a doctor can be a benefit. I could listen to your chest and say, yes, this is definitely something that's got phlegm in your chest, you've got a high likelihood of getting massively sick. I suggest antibiotic now.
yeah, it's like Vicky.
Even though it's 1 day in.
Yeah, like
this is
Vicky
worth
left
treating.
her chest for a while, and she actually had pneumonia. Like, she
Yeah.
went for X-ray.
So
and
that's
it was
the
that
problem you
bad.
run
It's
into
like,
with kind of
yeah,
your sort of philosophy on
Yeah.
this.
yeah. So you need
So-
to just.
There's pros and cons to both.
But that was 2 weeks in. It was 2 weeks later. She had this very bad. I'm like, listen, you need to go get checked out. So that's 2 weeks later of trying to just get her to rest. She was also not resting well and things like that. But you've got clients that jump to antibiotics quickly as well. Like I get a client messaging me, "Hi, I can't come back and train you because I'm still on antibiotics." What was wrong? I had flu. Did you really need the antibiotic? Like, and then how far is your gut? And then you're back to square one on gut health, immune health.
Yeah.
Just
What did you want to say there, Neil?
No, well, I was going to say, obviously, also even to like different things, it also depends from person to person. Like someone who smokes is more likely to end up with a chest infection versus someone who doesn't. So like depending on where you are and what your other habits are, might lead you down a road where you're going to be more potential to get certain things and therefore require certain medication. So you have to, again, there's a lifestyle factors that come into play
absolutely.
at the end of the day.
It's interesting that you bring that up. So I always like rank smoking and alcoholism together. I don't know why, because it's just the phenotype does seem to match. But alcohol is another thing that will drive your immunity down overnight, big time. Like not just, oh, maybe I'm 20% more likely, like you're 80% more likely. to
yeah.
get
So
sick.
that's probably
So
the
you mean-
bigger factor that I had is because that night we went out for dinner, date night, and we did then do a wine pairing with it. So it's not like I drank copious amounts of alcohol. I
but
had for me,
some alcohol,
it's quite a bit.
disrupted night's sleep, and you're sick.
2 glasses of wine, and then when we went out, I had, which I drink quite well, silver tequila. So for me, that's quite a lot of alcohol.
The shit's not hard. Like it's very basic things that if you can get these things right, you can literally go through winter without being sick.
Yeah.
So I once, I mean, this was probably the sickest I've ever been. I was still a teenager, I think, if I remember back. I had some sort of viral infection where like I struggled to like walk across the room without feeling absolutely terrible. And I remember I went to go see some sort of homeopath or whatever, and they made me do a hot bath with like drinking some hot fluids and then go sleep under like 5 blankets wrapped in like harm clothes and just like literally sweat my balls off. And the next day I woke up like, cool, let's go play.
Guys, I do not recommend that
Like-
at all. Just want to just say
No, I'm just
my
saying.
opinion is don't do that.
But like that sweat session, like, I mean, don't ask me why, but it worked. Like the next day, I woke up feeling like a new person, like from not being able to walk across the room previously the next sort of day. So, like even for myself now, like if I feel something coming on, I will go run a hot bath and sweat it out and do whatever, and it seems to have some sort of help. Like I don't know if you can speak to that in any regard as to
Okay, so
like,
it's the same as if you get a fever, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you get a bug. Why do you get a fever? Well, your body raises its temperature because that's not the optimum environment for the virus to be able to replicate. The virus needs a cell, so it enters the cell, uses the cell's machinery. The virus doesn't have its own machinery to replicate, so it uses your body's sort of raw materials to be able to replicate. But it needs the correct environment, of which the correct temperature is one thing, of which 36.9 is a very nice one. So that's why we get sick. That's why, certain animals get certain animal viruses and certain humans get, because the environment is right for those viruses. It's not that those viruses look at us and go like, oh, no, thanks. They try, but it just doesn't suit them, so they die off. The virus wants to survive. Our body doesn't want the virus to survive. So the body will elevate its temperature to be able to decrease the optimization for viral replication. The number of replications, the higher the number of replications, the sicker we get. So if we just keep replications low, our body will overcome it more quickly. It's fairly logical. Like an army, you want to fight less. So that's the thought process, is if we can just raise our body temperature, then we have no virus, The problem is you start to denature. So you're slowly cooking yourself, right? So it's very bad for you. So if you're then on top of your fever, elevating your body temperature, you are putting yourself in a massively disadvantageous position to get well, massively. So like, let's say a child comes in with a fever, we cool them down as quickly as possible.
So what I potentially did on that Friday when I was actually feeling a little bit unwell is that I got in the sauna and my heart rate elevated.
Yep.
So I could obviously feel like something was different. But then on yesterday, when I got into the sauna, my heart rate didn't elevate. Is it safe to say that when you are feeling at your worst, you shouldn't sauna or
100%.
or hot bath? But if you're feeling a bit better, you can go do that.
I would still not.
You
So
still not.
basically, what you can sort of reason this out is if you are sick, your body is under strain, and it's just trying its best to survive.
Is a cold
you're
bath as
adding
bad
strain-
as the hot
No,
sauna?
no, that's not very stressful. So you're adding strain to your body by subjecting yourself to heat. That's essentially the problem. So you're already immunocompromised. Now you're adding more stress to your body, and you're like, it's not, in my opinion, not a smart thing to do.
And steam kind of like to clear you from
Yeah,
feeling
that's fine.
heady,
That's
like
fine.
headache.
That's not raising your body temperature.
Okay.
A little bit of Vicks in the steam, and
Yeah.
you'll feel better again. It's not going to necessarily help anything, but
And the ice bath, is that a beneficial thing to do?
so there's no real evidence on acute wellness in ice baths. So we don't have any studies, or the studies are inconclusive to say. So I would say no. We don't have evidence for me to say I recommend doing ice baths.
So I don't think it made me better, but I definitely did feel better yesterday.
So it
Like,
will. That's
I
again.
said
So
like I came.
you're
1
going to get a
o'clock and
dopamine hit, and you're
yeah.
going to feel more
Yeah.
positive about life. Are you getting better? No. Arguably, in those 20 minutes at your ice bath, no, you didn't improve in your health. But your brain can only perceive like. You must understand. You're like living a simulation. Your brain is telling you everything. Like nothing really exists. Like a sugar craving doesn't exist. It's a dopamine thing. It's chemical reactions the whole time. So whether you're feeling sick, that's just your brain's perception of what's happening in your body. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but you get what I'm saying. So you can do things which you'll be like, oh, that helped me so much. No, like that's not really how viruses work. It takes a long time for them
think-
to work out.
And then there was the funniest one. I'll send the video to you guys. We can maybe post it. So talking to Denwell because he was sick just before me, and I think it's his kid that I actually got sick from because the previous Saturday, Logan walked past me, sneezes, and this chunk of green comes out, and I'm like, "Let's fix that, buddy." So I grabbed tissue, fixed it, and I was like, "Ugh, should probably wash my hands from that." and then I think I got sick. But anyway, so he tells me no, that Stony, his remedy, and this is I think where people can again do something that just makes you feel better, whether it's a med lemon or a Krenzer C fizzy, which I quite like. I drink more magnesium fizzies or more ginger when I'm not feeling well. Makes me feel better. Try find something that makes you feel better, because I think having a positive mindset on something,
Absolutely, that
like
does make a
especially because
difference.
then you're not training, or you can't go run, or you can't go
Yep.
do something. You can't elevate your heart rate because it isn't safe to elevate
Yes,
your heart rate,
agreed.
or whatever it is. Do something that will make you feel better. So I think the ice bath yesterday made me feel better because it's the one thing I could rely on that's not going to make me
Mm,
like
for
put
sure.
strain on my body or whatever it is. Sorry, so he says no. So they take a Stony, heat it up, like warm, and then drink it.
It's the same
and
as
it
what you're
makes you
doing with the
feel
med
better.
lemon.
Yeah.
It's exactly
So
the
I
same
mean,
shit.
so then I googled like, is
It's
there
just
real
cheaper.
ginger in Stony, and they can't conclude that there's real ginger in Stony. Like Pen Bev or Coca Cola doesn't release the facts of what they actually put in there. So
You know,
like,
if there was real ginger, they would advertise with real ginger.
Exactly.
So there's not.
So I was
Let's
telling
just
the
say
guys. So then Tish yesterday, he says to me, he's like, "Oh no, dude, you got to do a Stony." Dude, did I burst out laughing because like Denwell tells me the Stony, and Alice Oak tells me the Stony idea. Like maybe next time I get sick, I'm just gonna heat up a Stony and hit a Stony. You know, I don't think
Stony is ginger ale, by the way.
So. Yeah,
Anyone who doesn't know
Yeah.
what Stony is.
There it is. Yeah, so Stony ginger beer. So, but I would rather do the ginger me shot. Anything more from you on how to get well? Like dumb it down. Like how to get better.
So let's say you get sick. Sleep is the most important thing. Go back to bed and sleep. Take a sick day, take a sick week, whatever you have to do is sleep, because it also stops you from spreading it to other people. Being contagious, you are contagious as long as you have symptoms. You are contagious even before you get symptoms, and you are contagious a little bit after your symptoms disappear. But it's very safe to say if you have any symptoms, you're still shedding virus. You are contagious. So we get these people who are like at the gym in the corner. No, I've been sick for a week.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
So you guys are not happy with
No,
me sitting
I'm very
here?
unhappy with being here. Very unhappy. But what can I do? You know, we're here now.
We had to
I have
shoot.
faith in my immune system.
Yeah. So I actually slept badly
Let's
last
see.
night. So let's see. I'm going to bed early
Sorry,
tonight.
guys. Sorry, mate. Sorry.
So that's the first thing.
I
is
know a good doctor
You,
if
you
you
got
need
you got to sleep enough, all right, and then obviously put yourself in a position where you're going to heal quicker. As in, I'm not going to drink alcohol while I have any symptoms. I'm going to cut out sugar entirely while I have symptoms. And importantly, we can talk about the exercise issues. Should you now exercise or not? Exercise is another strain on the body, drives your immunity down, all right? So we actually see people who train twice a day. We have like nice athlete studies, because athletes obviously train quite often, are more likely to get ill. So exercise is actually very good for your immune system over the long term. You should be exercising to get better. But too much exercise, this is the one thing, too much of. It's like too much sleep is not going to make you more sick. You go for it. Get too much sleep. But too much exercise will drive down your immunity. So you need to kind of find the balance there. I would say it's very difficult to over-exercise for 1 hour a day. Put it out there. Now, once you are sick, when should you return to exercise? There's very little guidelines available in the literature, but basically what you can rule it out, and this is not a perfect law and it should be followed with help of a doctor, is anything above the vocal cords is probably fine. Anything below is probably not. So if you have a sore throat, if you have a cough, you're not ready. If you have a stuffy nose, your eyes are watering, blocked ears, you're probably good to go.
Yeah, like if you go upside down and you just feel like, oh, that wasn't great.
Yeah.
You're still
probably
good to
fine.
go.
Yeah. And what we're looking at is your risk for what's called myocarditis. So your heart can get inflamed from being sick, and then when you train, it makes it worse. And you can actually die from this. It's actually kind of serious, and I don't think we take it seriously enough. But whatever, it is what it is. So that's what you're trying to mitigate, the risk of your sickness converting to a myocarditis. So limiting exercise, be smart about it.
So chesty cough, sore throat, don't exercise. Stuffy nose,
sore ears, whatever, you're probably fine.
headache.
Headache,
Like you're probably not going to train if you got a headache, but
Yeah.
people can like, oh, I got a headache today.
you can train.
Okay.
You'll probably even feel a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I've generally found that sometimes you have that little bit of like phlegm or residue on your chest when the other symptoms have passed. So the exercise actually helps just
Gets it out.
clear it out. You know?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think definitely like not like going for a light jog, but your first thing should just be like
Yes.
a very easy
A very
cardio.
easy session. So don't go run a marathon.
Yeah,
Yes.
go light jog. The movement I find it's like if you've got a full stomach and you try to go run, like you're gonna be like, oh, like whatever. If you wear a weighted vest, even you can even walk with a vest just to like that impact. Light
Walking is
jog.
so underrated. We spoke
Yeah.
about this in previous podcasts, but go for a walk. That's absolutely. If you're returning to exercise from being sick, walking should be where you start.
Yeah, so yesterday was day, let's call it 3 of being sick, and I'm fine today. But yesterday I hit massive steps in yesterday, like let's say 13,000 steps. Wednesday's my busiest day, and I think it helped. Like, had a nice mild heart rate today.
Mm.
All right. Anything else you want to add to making sure you feel better?
Nope. Well, I mean, it starts before you get sick to actually really help you. So,
Mm.
like we obviously saying like when you get sick, don't do these things. But the more you also don't do them before, the better of actually not getting sick. Like bear that in mind.
Yeah, and guys always just jump to getting an antibiotic rather go spend their time and effort and money on how can I prevent this? How
Sure.
can I just make sure that
for
I'm
sure.
spending all this money beforehand and not spending it afterhand?
And there are a ton of supplements that you can be taking, throughout the winter to bolster your immune system, and we can maybe do that in future episodes. But educate yourself on what is good for immunity. Do those things, and you'll probably be okay. Maybe we should quickly just talk about antibiotics. Why it's not a good idea.
Yeah, just the gut
The
part.
gut thing. So
Yeah.
antibiotics basically are antibacterials. So there are chemical compounds that kill bacteria. Now, unfortunately, we need bacteria to survive as a species. I read this one thing, I don't even know if it's true, but it basically said if you were to destroy all the human tissue in your body, you would still recognize each other. So I would still be able to know that you're Garth by your face just by the total bacteria. So the bacteria stayed and all the human tissue disappeared. I'd still recognize you, which is quite interesting. But I don't know if that's true. I hope it is because it
Can
sounds
you see
cool.
what that looks like?
No,
bacteria?
I don't know. Yeah, you can see
Like-
bacteria in the microscope. So basically, they're saying there's like billions and billions of bacteria everywhere, and it lines
Yeah.
everything. So you'd probably anyway, whatever. That's irrelevant. But the most important thing is it lines your gut, and the bacterial integrity of your gut determines how well you can absorb nutrients. So why this is of importance, as we've just discussed, how important nutrients are for you to get better. If you destroy your ability to absorb nutrients by taking an antibiotic, which yes will kill the bacteria in your lungs, but will also kill the bacteria in your tummy. It's not selective. Now, do you prolong the disease because now you've destroyed your gut health? Did you even have a bacteria that was in your lungs, so it was viral, and then you took an antibiotic, destroyed your ability to absorb and fix, and you didn't even help with the viral infection? Like, there are risks to taking antibiotics, and I think that's the most important thing is for people to realize it doesn't come for free. It's not like, oh, well, the antibiotic didn't work, I didn't lose anything, we tried. It's not like that, and it's often advertised that way. It's not like that at all. Very, very detrimental to be taking antibiotics. The other problem we have with antibiotics is it's limited. So I said earlier that viruses replicate very quickly and they mutate very quickly. That's why we don't really have treatments for them. They're just too clever. Bacteria still mutate. They still replicate in ways around. So let's just by natural selection, let's say I've got 10,000 bacteria and I drop an antibiotic in there, 1 or 2 survive. It doesn't kill everything. Then those replicate. Now those are now resistant to that one. So year on year, as we're using more and more antibiotics, we're finding more and more resistant bacteria. And we are on a path, unfortunately, to a place where the world will exist as it did before antibacterials. Before Alexander Fleming saved us by his discovery of penicillin, we are going back that way. And people will die from the flu because we don't have antibacterials. We're heading that way very quickly. The reason we're heading that way is because bacteria, although they mutate slowly, they mutate more quickly than we're able to discover new antibiotics. So, yeah, I mean, there's predictions, but it's like
So,
sort of,
do you take antibiotics? Do you yourself?
I'm trying to think the last time I took antibiotics. Yeah, I do. I do take antibiotics. The last time I took, trying to remember.
Maybe for surgery?
I did take for a surgery that supposedly turned septic, but then wasn't septic.
Yeah.
That was maybe like 5 years ago.
So, if you got really sick chest infection, green snot,
I
and
would,
you're feeling
I would
terrible,
take an antibiotic.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. I would be very selective about because, again, not all antibiotics work. So you get antibiotics for respiratory. So guys will be like, oh, I want the 3-day one. That's not necessarily the one that works for chest infections. So what are we treating here? Now you're just going to destroy all of your skin bacteria, for example. So, yeah. It's. I'm not advertising myself as a very clever individual. These are very easy. Like this is like year 1 med school. You learn this stuff. It's like very basic stuff. But it's also very neglected within healthcare as a whole. So, and also doctors are bullied. Patients want this one. So give me this one. And then you give them that one just to get them out because whatever. But you're doing a disservice to the world because it's not going to treat that issue. It's going to decrease sensitivity as a whole in the population.
Yeah. So, I mean,
We're headed down a bad path.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't take antibiotics because I don't then shit for like 3 days, and like I've got a morning routine. This is this, this is that, and I feel good. If my stomach feels congested, blocked, I feel worse than
Sure.
the chest snotty, headachy, or whatever it is. Like I feel terrible. And then, to be honest, I just take a while to get back to like square one. Like then I'm not going in the morning, and I find my routine a healthy routine. And I mean, um, to have a good kind of stool routine, I think is one of the healthiest things as well, because then
It
you
is
know
very
your gut
important.
is like
Sure.
optimal. You know,
Last thing I'll say about the antibiotics is if you do get prescribed a course of antibiotics and you start taking it, as in you have now taken one tablet, you must finish that course. Because now what you've done is you've exposed the bacteria to a tablet that it can become resistant to if you don't kill all of it. So now you expose it, some of the bacteria die, the other bacteria look at it and go like, oh, that killed that, so I'm going to mutate this way so it doesn't kill me in the future. So you have to take enough of this antibiotic to wipe out the entire population of what you're infected with. Otherwise, you're literally creating resistance. So once you start, do not stop. Firstly, you will get more sick. And secondly, the world as a whole gets more sick. You
Yeah.
have to finish the course.
so I think the other thing is that there's obviously certain things like I mean I had my wisdom teeth taken out. Did you take? Because you had your teeth out as well. Did you also take antibiotic? Oh, you did, eh? I think so because we spoke about it.
I don't know if I did.
I don't know if you did. Anyway, so there are certain things that you don't want to risk getting a mouth infection.
Mm.
You know, it's a highly kind of like bacterial area and
Yep.
things like that. Like you like don't be stupid. So again, make sure that like you do finish that course. But with that, so guys, also, so can you just talk through the different probiotics? Because I obviously buy like a Metagenics probiotic. The real thing just tastes foul. That's why I don't use theirs, but it's also good because it's a live probiotics. Guys get that Rotary off the shelf. Surely that's not helping you enough.
So probiotics is a very interesting topic, and I'm currently in the process of discussions of trying to create a probiotic, but it's very difficult because what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the gut back to normal with a probiotic. We're trying to feed the bacteria that there's enough for the bacteria to replicate in our gut to back to normal. The problem is we don't know what normal is.
Because you need bad bacteria and you need good bacteria and you need a balance of all of that.
And
I
it's
think we're
different
all
for
different.
person to person, and it's different from age group to age group, and it's different from
Environment.
gender, the environment. So we actually don't have a normal that we're treating back to. So what do? Well, we just give a bunch and see what happens. So it's not perfect. Secondly, probiotics are living organisms which will die if they're on a shelf. So taking a tablet that's been there for years and years and years, there's no live cultures there anymore. If it's not from the fridge, probably it's not doing much. It's not doing nothing, but it's not doing much. And even the ones that are in the fridge, if the cold chain's been broken, if from production in the transport to Discam or whatever that heated up, they're dead. It's all dead. So you start wasting a lot of money. What we do find is really good is fermented foods. If you're consuming fermented foods, your body's very good at using those fermented foods to reproduce the bacteria that it knows it needs. You can't, unfortunately, just start eating fermented food. It's a graduated process. So if you, let's say I just like eat a kilogram of kimchi, I'll do more damage to my gut health than good. You have to add fermented foods slowly and build it up over time.
So just try to change your diet over longevity. Like try once a week, have this kind
Yes.
of. Yeah.
Or just a tablespoon every day. Just build it up over time.
Okay.
It's again like we talk about this every single time, but it comes back to very basic healthy habits. Like just do the small stuff and you'll be fine. There's science behind it. People feel like, no, but no, that doesn't sound right. You know?
Consistency is key. over
Consistency is literally that's all it is. Cool. Anything else?
time.
Happy.
All good. Thank you, boys.
Shot.
Till next time.